health crisis. It's a first.
Three of us will experience it.
And I realized that there's decent businesses in the world.
He's the billionaire founder meditation and sleep app.
We were crazy. The bridge we raised and getting to a series years. And then that was what's happening. Never with more noise, social media. It's coming at us constantly. Skills in the 21st century. Where and put our attention. The human brain's thing in the known universe. Instruction manual.
Can you do me a favor if you're listening? Subscribe button, the follow button. Thank you so much. Michael, the billionaire founder, meditation and sleep app. 10 years. Michael has been an entrepreneurial success. Staggering thing is how many successes quickly into Flea, how he rose them again from those ashes, even more successful business. People would give up. And you hear what Michael's been through. Calm app is worth millions of dollars. Hard times or any pain at all, it teaches them the importance and meditation. Michael had an easy life in his mind, but he battles as everyone else. And he has the hardest life. Michael, thank you, podcast. Thank you for your, I know, this conversation that takes the time to listen to it, even Bartlett. And this is the direct, nobody's listening, but if you watch yourself. You've been described in this kind of like entrepreneur character. Your story, I was inspired and blown away by how entrepreneurial bug appeared. Look at your younger years, point what you were good at, the thing in terms of skill.
I'm not. I was at school, like not for anything, but pinned down one curiosity. I was just fascinated, lots of different things. And my dad, he used to bring books home on all sorts of random subjects, devour them. And so I think this interest areas of life. When you're curious, interesting in life, everyone you chat to, every country you go to kind of connect dots, a really important part.
That inspires if you've got so many dots to do things, right?
Exactly. Curiosity, I think, creative as well. I love taking the round on my head, putting them onto round with them, thinking about them from taking the best in the world. And this is the beauty. You can talk about when you meet the market, there's any merit to your ideas, resonate and use or whatever it is that you're creating.
Your sister said the story she told about you going to Carby, really remarkable seller when you sales. What role was you had a talent for selling things?
Oh, if I've ever thought of myself, and I think I get very and passionate about things, which I think is probably a key selling things. It was one of the many endeavors when we were younger, selling things and trying to match walking by. So,
did you fit? Did you?
Not really. No, it was a little bit of a egg in a round hole. Was quite small and just didn't. It's hard to describe, but didn't quite understand what was going on. It forced me to kind of retreat a little bit. I became very passionate. Kind of went down the path, sort of social parties and events, and I was shy until I got.
Were you ever bullied in school? Did you ever?
I wouldn't describe it as bully. Not classmates, the cool kids looking in rather than everything that was going on.
Changed somehow.
It did. First is you can reinvent yourself in sort of perceptions of you when you get there. Some amazing friends, and I just everything, joined every club, everyone I could. It was a big, and some of my best friends at university during that period.
Identity, when you start, I guess, exploring who you actually are, and you shed a lot of about public at starting Firebox later on, right? 1990.
So Tom and I were all ideas, but when we left university, we were needed to. My passion at that to become a bank. I'd watch Wall Street, interesting world braces, and just kind of. And I lived, and I saw in the newspaper a ad for a company cars and at investment banks in London. Didn't know anyone that worked in the city, geography degree, so there wasn't a door to get a job in a bank route in. So I worked as an artist, and I got put on the Golden. Thought, this is amazing. Week and got to work in their offices, and the FT and the Economist, and like throw in kind of random, hoping I'd get noticed in the company. Of course, that never happened. Realized was that this world for me, it didn't try on that for size to see what it was like, but it didn't kind of speak to my bit false. There was no creating. So after I stepped away from that, he was programming sales, entertaining job. He'd have to drink these breathalyzers. He was worse. But we both clicking with what we had and some ideas, and the internet have really gained 98 and our chats in the pub. We realized maybe we should.
So take you hand in your resignation still at that company?
Crossover, as they're usually the idea that Tom and I were chatting about, zooming, that was the moment, dive into the unknown, leap out of the air as we plummet.
Yeah.
Tom was living just outside, and I remember we were chatting, we went into a bookshop that was called Internet, and with AI and computer science, something was going on in this club together. We put £10 in, a lot of money for us to mouth. And I just remember my mind blown by this was going to change everything, how we connected with each. And Tom was, so that was kind of to create what became Firebox, the games, the sort of.
And so that was like kind of like an online retailer.
Yeah, we felt that, the internet, it was young, were sort of figuring out how to, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world. The search engines were, it was a lot more on the internet at this time. Unusual toys and lucky stuff. Was sort of inspired by the innovative image in America, and we would find cool. We would list them then when someone bought them, buy the product because we didn't have the cash flow to, and then it certainly wasn't Amazon. Next, pretty clunky.
And the payment.
Well, this is really interesting. We told people we were going to set up a few different reactions. One was that people would tell us, no one is going to, you have to put your credit card in line, too risky and dangerous. The second, many people making money online are. So I think there's a revolution. Mail order catalogs, look at the money, more efficient way of doing this. Shopify, long before Stripe, was the technical genius, a website to take payment. Was if you want, you had to find the product out, an order form, fill it in with all your details, your credit card details, and you had to fax. I would print it out, in. We had a PD, would manually type in, take the money, and once it arrived in a package, it was incredibly inefficient. We only had about one order a month. We in danger of setting any kind of, it was months this went on, and it allowed us to kind of sort out what was going on and data. And we had an amazing friend called at university, and he aims to order from the site, let us feel that he only admitted that to us, kept our spirits up as come in.
What was the high? What was the highest moment?
It's still going quarter of a century almost, to think, and into. I think the real kind of business was when we made, instead of selling other people's products, which is very thin, and we developed our own IP. And that was, for me, recognizing business. You've really got to, make something that hasn't. So during one of our missions in the pub, Tom were what's across the bar into a conversation of chessboard. What if we could make it more interesting, turn it into and 32 glasses on a board, alcohol, red wine against white wine if you're very hardcore. But every time you capture a piece, you could make a queen sacrifice, make your opponent very drunk, balance things. And we just thought idea and press release for it to a bunch of magazine companies who went into WH, all the addresses and the names. And they really suddenly had all this incredible shot glass. The other light bulb moment there was do something different to broke, and we were in FHM and Maxim, cool Welsh newspaper, page 3 of the Sun, which was the main picture.
I was going to say you or Tom.
To see us, a little snippet, and suddenly boring. It was a moment.
And it just touch on the less storytelling. I'm guessing that's
oh boy, absolutely.
And what's the principles of storytelling?
Well, interested in the, if you look at a business, it almost always, the stories of people's lives that have been transformed is such a power of communicating and connecting the struggle, the transformation by Will Storr, called this, kind of talks about this in Greek, with every business pitching my business to invest in. So it's a key entrepreneurial journey. Yeah, we realized that putting out press releases saying this is likes and this is our margin, human angle and those aspects, and it makes.
And it's from this business.
Yeah, so the business was we'd moved from Wales. We went to one of the first, I don't know if anyone listening about this, in the Guardian, networking event where investors came together we were living in this attic, so we need to be in London, paved with gold. So literally with a van and drove to London. And the very first one we went to, we met and they invested in the business. And so many years, got much bigger. While I decided something new, the way there was a new incredibly excited about, and I had some important, and I created the next big adventure.
Why saying there that you kind of ran for the business ultimately, financially free, stable, or
No, from it, we'd been sold any shares business. We were paying ourselves, and a challenging business. We were stable, but it certainly wasn't throwing off. I just felt that idea that I just cooking me up every single night. I felt I had to answer that Lee Firebox or Tom, or again, we had some very important conversations. Do something new, and since the first Web 2 was just gathering past the read where we're creating crowds. Like I had to.
That's really interesting. You described. Think about a way to entrepreneurs that have lots of ideas. How to doing, and I was saying, one site is there's almost this new ideas come. I put them nag me. And if they, Steve, then I'll pursue background and collect dust and vanish. Sounds like you're talking about a similar, if it nags you long enough, you pursue.
True. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs, many listen podcast, a great idea, maybe about it. And what I think is time is it's very easy. There are so many tools upon to get going on day one. Investment chasing, that's a positive thing. And I see this. There are too many people before they fully bake their idea. They have the skyscraper. They want to build money. They build the team like a paper bag. And that's a scary once you've got a team, once the clock board. What I would strong with every business I've set slow to go fast front. Spend researching what it is that yourself in this idea. The business conferences, really speak to people in the space starts to happen. These dots, this invisible aware of, is you, the magic, finding, discovering where the opportunity is. And once you say, whether it's the front of the shelf, which wakes me up every single night, let's go, this is it, any longer. And you have those build upon going forward.
Well, exactly what you're...
Very crisp, very clear. It can change over time. Start from very strong fund. You have, that is very meant to be around. The first wave of them bring on board the journalists. Yeah, that's my philosophy, is taking time to ready before you move.
The problem entrepreneurs have in their mind linked to that, why don't they heed that? They always think urgency to the challenge, see it as they're in it, and they need to go now in terms of capital, and it always feels people are launching, it's like someone launching cupcake because sourdough, it's now or never.
Yeah, it's a really good, feels like that. If what's surface level, if is just doing well, or an article you read, haven't done that deep work, it does, because the race, if you do the deep work, you can, market hasn't fully formed. Great analogy, I think, is you're waiting for that wave. You don't want to be, everyone's caught the wave, and away they get way too early, in the freezing cold, because you'll freeze to death. Where you feel suddenly the sun comes up and you see for it and you catch it, and wouldn't quite like that being one of the wave in a new market. Calm and meditation. Alex and I were out there paddling and waiting for that wave for years. A little bit crazy. The foundations we were doing, and then we were.
Quick one. At this time, Mike, in the amount of people that are in the hooligan camp, and that speaks to the role that Huel plays in people's lives, which was, as we start, typically we fall into the convenience food, or lots. Huel kind of safeguards us, be nutritionally complete, as you'll know. I say it every single time. I've had people joining Huel a couple of weeks of January of the year. So if giving it a shot, here's my recommendation. Caramel flavor, that's my personal favorite. The banana flavor, I absolutely adore. Swirl flavor, and also the pro again that sits on top of my fridge. Incredibly useful if you are working protein into your body. Let me know what you think. So I went on to Mind Candy.
Yes.
Perplexity. That fit.
This is going back. The reason why I stepped, and the idea that I was around games, and I love Scrabble and back Dungeons and Dragons, created all my own, really interesting happening just millennium. And it was nice how we play being, on a Nintendo, or could games be, or 10 people, or hundreds, what people, the massive boom that was just craft, and some of the ones coming up was what I couldn't stop thinking. City was this idea that didn't just live online, that it would be, you would be a hero in part story, part movie. Watched a movie that I couldn't stop thinking, Douglas, where doesn't know whether it's real life, and I just wanted to was the starting point of Perplexity. Raised some money, we buried it, that was worth 100. The first person
where is that
found it was found a couple of years by the very passionate in this game, but we really hid clues in classified sections by writing. You'd get messages. It was that we had. It was just this extraordinary do. And it was called Game. And so that was Perplexity, one of the most creative and incredible team. Unfortunately, it was disastrous. My goodness, I learned some really that.
$9 million?
About roughly 10 million through almost all of it. And the night this time was in a cold sweat thinking not right. And the problem was the world was saying we're winning awards. We were in like we were geniuses, but in the pit of my stomach, I was like, towards a cliff, and I need to do something.
Figured out the underlying business.
So we had a model. So it's a bit like Pokemon cards. You'd get 6 in a pack for a few. These puzzles, there were 200 all sorts of hidden clues within. We sold money, but it was nowhere near enough. Very expensive game we were running. So the business model didn't. So yeah, as I said, I didn't think we'd be able to raise another round. Stressed, extremely worried.
When you say so, it's extremely stressed. Give me in real terms on a day-to-day basis.
So sitting there, I remember sitting at the office and looking at the team, kind of everyone happy and screen, knowing how fast we were burning money. This whole will be declared bankrupt director again. It was quite, and not knowing what to do next. Who do I speak to about it? Under in that business. So amazing COO / everything, Vinny Knowles, who worked closely. Yeah, I just didn't realize this conundrum we were in. Manifested in sleepless nights, all the stress and
day where you had to make that company down and to bring it to an end at that moment, like.
There was, and that was a horrible thing. Morning, 25 of us into town. I was shaking like a leaf, and these people, they followed me, painted for them all. I say, this is not working. We're gonna have to stop and kill. And it was partway through the second of shock and horror, and I had been and so this we should do. We had dollars left. We had 2 options, and hit the end. This dramatic pivot to this new and see if we can. And we were going fascinating to a kids game. I tried to explain it to people, and people shaking their heads and not knowing what I was talking about. Only a couple of people got it. We had to let many people out. It was also quite telling my board that we were. And to be fair, credit back then enough, Michael. We were. There isn't really. I described it as a fight, and they all got on board, kind of. And we had some in Perplexity characters called puzzle monsters. City was one of the. It was this world of parents would do their homework and their puzzles the night. It was quite serious, terrifying kids giving them night. I love this concept and new idea. This spin-off called Stealth Education helps. While that then we changed it, just sounded a bit more cool. And the seed
journey that strikes. Probably significant to some degree, where you jobs and careers on the line and you have capital on the line. What are the when you're on your own and you think, I'll never do that thing again and keep with me for the rest of my life?
I think not sucked into and believing. Wonderful to be written about. It's wonderful to win awards. What a bit successful business. Give you a little bit of momentum. Really got to understand, and you've really got to understand economics. There's no point creating something, you don't know how it's going to, and how you're going to create something when you create it for. So you can build an audience, absolutely. How at some point a successful business, businesses are so rare because that are creative and they can get going, but also commercial instincts and margins and like machine behind there.
Such a good point. And I think I was first business ballpark when I dropped out. Thought people client and like being in the press was validation of, so I got more romantic, whereas really validation of an interesting story,
very
not
well
of a business
said.
model. Do you know what I mean?
How did that turn out?
Failed.
There we go. I mean, my body is lit, but the great thing about business wants to create a huge success.
I was well aware of a variety of different reasons. The growth and trajectory at LO for the first sort of 2 years, 18 months.
Everyone thinks business happen overnight. They do a lot of grind and hustle. But, these little monsters that would live online and look after at the kids' entertainment space. Gotchi a few years before. Tens of millions of those characters were sold. Here, could we take that? There'd been the Pet Rock, which...
Yes, and Neopets.
Great business. In fact, most of us love nerd. So I thought in the era of Flash, the web, could we create these? So that was the idea. We didn't ties it, and we to create that we would sell in shops. Charm for about £10. Side would be a code that you adopt your monster. Thousands of these phones, and it was just too tweeted. And so trying to make that work, let's just make it free. Forget the ties it at the start, and just adopt a monster. Start kind of and that was the trigger point. We were away. So 2 signups a day today, then hundreds of signups a day. I think over 100,000 around the world were adopted. It was
business rose, right? And then obviously there was struggled.
Yep.
Because of
it's an understatement. Struggle. Well, no wrong. We were now just slow growth and then rocket ship. Thought we were going to, and we had offered hundreds of millions of dollars, and I are taking this all the way to the end. Everything we did seemed to just get big till it suddenly didn't. Summer of 2012 was wet, and I was like, this is probably just an aberration. Oh, it's because it's a hot summer, or Z, you kind of make excuses. What had happened was a platform shift. Kids were moving from the web as their primary games.
Desktop, right?
Yeah, Moshi or Club Penguin or Star, all these other games, to iPads and the mobile. I head in the sand for a little bit and didn't really going to take off. And then we started to lean into it, adapt Moshi for this new world. Very difficult. And economics and the ways, and it was a subscription service. And as fast as we'd grown to come down, and free games through we trying to kind of write the but weren't an incredibly stressful.
Another stressful period.
That's why I've got so many grey hairs. Learned a lot during that period, but time.
Tough time is in down the business, trying to find new.
Yeah.
On a personal, I mean, that is an even higher down from, right? In terms of is in company, and when your self-worth, or because you're intrinsically connected.
Yeah, that was exactly when things are going well. You feel wonderful. Tricky thing was that I think was so I was the poster boys of I was on the front cover of the press, were just writing about glowing terms all the time. Wrong. And again, the ego and then to have that flip that was falling apart. We did so difficult, followed me and joined this business. Revenue started quite stressful, press started right. It was really, 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 like you mentioned, ego, my worth, mind with my business, and now the failure and worthless. Really, really difficult time.
How did you cope with that?
I'm lucky in that I have a family, and I have who are also we've all had, at one point, some of us are doing well. We kind of pick each other up, important pep talks. So I think was very, very helpful. When you're struggling like that, it's just circles. So you do the next day just and you're irritable. Cortisol and adrenaline. Don't eat well and put to exercise. So compounding, I was in a pretty state, but I did try and kind of be real world, going through much trick, falling apart. But when it's your worth around it, it feels like the world is ending.
Ask you, which was about when you're going through at a time when men in concept of mental health, turning to escape, sorting yourself with some kind of. The secondary question was about the topic. Did you discover that it was a thing?
So I think in life we must seek things that the challenge is, and for some people, for me, from the business, I take myself off to, I suppose caffeine is drug as some other ones, but to take just because I woke up with sucked, I felt like I was hit by, so these painkillers would kind of help me day. It was a very not addressing business or trying to, but not doing job. For me, I could see it so clearly. One of the best businesses for scratching your own itch, and you under meditation was, or mindfulness. Alex Chu had meditating with CD-ROMs. He a very unusual teenager, and he to me, look, dude, you need to, and I'd be like, you need to. That's the give me something practical. Surely the penny, and I kind of got it. And me was when I did something I took myself off on a solo. I went away to the office kind of resort, played tennis in the morning. I started to try because I'd heard about it. Incredible. The fog started to have my face pushed up against a way out of facing with my business, and perspective was hugely valuable. And research that, this is a way of rewiring. What if we could make this sensible to everyone? This could be one of the businesses in the world. Alex about it, and he's like, right, dude. Really? This was all around about creating, a person that owned Calm.com, playing video games in our house, and so Calm.com is available. And I said, what a business we could build there. And I said, how much? About £1 million. And I said, right.
Fuck off again.
to buy that, buying video games again. And Calm wants to sell it, and he's willing to buy it for much, much less. Put a deposit down on a house. Calm.com might be more parents, and thought it was. Yes, that was kind of acorn that was planted for.
Here is where my crossed. So when I described there, and social chain. So I knew I had this thesis of San Francisco to work at a place was helping them with growth, use like millions and millions of followers on like 20, 30 million followers, like Twitter pages, whatever, scale their products using. Yeo there said to me, he said, he's gone to do this. Swear to God. I thought like, what? What a weird guy. Because at the time, it's different now. Meditation was like hocus pocus nonsense. Imagine how I feel now.
You weren't the only person
I know,
that thought parties when we said we were building, and it other people like thinking I'd had a previous business and now I was setting up. Good luck with your non-profit, mate, with all the healing and negative connotation. Valuable and transformational entrepreneur. You look for those moments. Society was going to shift, but we felt there was change.
Story told me that, and then what? This multi-billion-dollar knows that taught me a very profound lesson about life at that kind of like and belief where he uses the wave coming into shore, like really early with this, you were betting on that wave coming into shore. So now I want to play in some skepticism.
Yep.
And I always think about calm because wave came in and I was like, and I just wish.
I think you've done quite all right. Multiple routes to huge thing. You said that. Yeah. Again, that time when it was so the number of where they were like, well, this is for free on YouTube. No one is going to pay for this. That isn't talked about. None around it. How on earth are you going to build a mental health? And we're like, this is important. What is more important? All the people suffering, anxiety, the PTSD point. We're going to wake up. The penny will flip. Anxiety. Again, it took years. It happened, and now if an often quoted soul will suffer from mental health, it's not 1 in 4. It's 1 in the mind. And some days it's great, and some days a body has physical health, and other days we have to reset our minds, because there is solving the global, which is the mission of Calm, challenges in order problem, and end all this unnecessary, can become masters there instead of controlled by them. Things starts to change. The climate change, racism, and homeless that stem from people having minds with greater resilience and gratitude. So I get very passionate about this. I think it's a very important.
I agree. Important one, other than maybe survival and happiness, seem like, which is maybe not the right word, but so like making sure we have life and then enjoy. Like that must be the two sort of challenges and opportunities of our
helping people not just to thrive in life, and the human brain is in the known universe, neurons, trillion. And yet it doesn't come manual. We're not, certainly weren't when we were growing goodness, but we're just to get on with life and no suffering and unhappiness, mental health issues, and be that way. And I think, and mindfulness is upgrading your own, it enables you to differently and to think differently. But it's an important then build upon.
Great way, you said. So how does that work from integrating my OS? What's happening?
Well, so this is complex, but at a level, it would. This part of our brain from there. Simple terms, what building practice and becoming more mindful changes our reliance from the prefrontal cortex thinking, plan a little bit more to think to perspective. Real kind of key moment developed my meditation practice. Now, situations in life, and that seems, when you stop and think about it in life, so many things happen. Your first thought, your horn, your partner says if you snap straight back at. What if of a second where you thought and you kicked in, this enabled you to respond rather than reacting? Good analogy is talked about the physical and ends in our bodies are very interconnected, and we lift weights and builds up the muscle in our body. The mental gym, it's a way of the strength of your mind. It's in everyday life to improve our attention. Need that muscle this modern age, because never with more attention from social media, TV, it's coming at us. One of the most valuable skills to be able to decide and when.
That is a dying art.
It is.
Our ability to.
This is optimistic. I'm very person, and I do the many challenges. Feels like the world is inflamed. Listen to the news, media. I think the world is actually different ways. Which talks about the data. As I say, it doesn't always see it, and I'm optimistic also because this incredible people are taking more care. It is okay to be vulnerable to your partner. Can you believe that? A few years ago, asking your boss or saying
be a crazy person.
It would be now. Not all companies are starting to recognize, and I think that is.
The trajectory of Calm is, was there a moment where you thought you're going to work? No.
We're out there on our surfboards and we were mad waiting for that wave. Yeah, we did feel as if this had some very kind of difficult stress, wondering how many more years. And very difficult to raise money. We were in the early days, but the seed money we raised and years and years to have an incredibly lean team, 7 of us and we were running out of money. And I sort of 25th with how we kept the lights. I gave a talk, a lady in the audience, and she emailed me afterwards and saying, could we make a book about Calm? Well, it's not a key focus at the moment, but in advance. amounts were dwindling. Sure. And the money for kept the business a very unusual way to up. So we're very grateful. And then we we put the price at $40 a year because we didn't see any drop-ups, which was just amazing. More money. And we realized this servants were valuable for getting something out of it. It was like, hang on a minute. It's happening. That was kind of that I just holding on to the rocket ship
on the surfboard.
Exactly. Yeah, the rocket ship surfboard.
Okay. And then that challenge is you've got to hire people, raise more money, scale up.
We were again, the business was starting to because we were bringing downloads and we were generating. I think we got to about 8 million downloads.
Wow.
And this is an important lesson to entrepreneurs. Poor gasoline is going. The gasoline to product market fit first. Don't till you really understand your business. And it was a way. A lady joins just brilliant at user acquisition, Facebook marketing inside out, the puzzle that really started next level.
And one of the word sleep in the title. So it started with predominantly men, branched out into sleep in many steps. So important. Where does that fit?
Yeah, something interesting in the data every night, all around the week in usage. And we've written to Mara's voice to help them what? Don't do that. Not how you meditate. Maybe there's something here to sleep stories. This age-old thing of a bedtime. And we created a sleep story and a full soothing voice with some music. And it starts in an engaging way and then click. So instead of your traditional structure of a story, Chris Stories has pioneered it. You're listening, you're about your to-do list or one day, you're engaged in the story. We've taken you where you're half awake, half asleep, and very few people get to. This was just huge. We've been listened to. We've had lots of celebrities have read. And the great thing about Skip, 7.8 every single night, or try that. You can create something new. If you can make a little more interesting and to solve a problem, and that's what Sleep Stories has been for massive growth.
A lot of misconceptions around sleep, and I've seen you. What are some of the big covered during insomnia that people tend to be harmful or least conducive?
Well, sleep as mindfulness. It used little sleep you got our life doing. People and respect shifted. Matthew Walker's books played a huge part in that, has played some part in. So I think the biggest thing is recognizing how important it is. Sort of different amount of sleep, somewhere between 7 and 9. For me, I need about to feel good. I don't know if you know, cope on about 3 hours, I imagine.
Figure that out. But about something you said earlier about how, when you started to neglect being, and sleep. These, as you said, they became disregarded. It's we got further from being human beings. I write about in my book as well that amazing that a lot of the cures or the mental health ailments in our life are just going drink water and try not to drink too much caffeine. To your friends. It's there's no but the problem is a culture of trying to make I can sell you some shit.
Well, so the overcomplicated has to be, but fundamentally just mentioned, Johan Connections is one of my favorite books with what made us and bodies evolved over 100. It's so basic. Those key things, enough good sleep. If we're disrespectful, we go to bed, it affects, and we're more irritable. We get shot. We do a negative compounding. So yeah, treating some important things we can do.
I've been trying to make my life a little bit more edgy ever since I sold electric bicycle, and this podcast, one of the brands that make it easier. They are at the forefront of renewable eco-smart. Are really, really YouTube. You can see what I'm holding in my hand, right? It's the UK solar power diverter. It's a device for people that means you can divert your consumption rather than back into the grid, and money is easy to install, and you can control it your own. To find out more about it that will help you make that, head over to myenergy.com. I highly recommend you check out Game Changer of a product, and one that I'm going to be tough time, sleepless night, difficult for everyone.
Yes.
For everyone's own. Some people lost family, lost their purpose, because we're all live our lives through glass screens, lost a lot of other things. How was this tumultuous?
It's been very challenging. The pandemic, as everybody on Earth, it has been. So my perspective, but I think stepping back to 2020, when this first, there was a lot of anxiety. This was together and intrigue about what into the office anymore. We could work from home. Opportunity for myself, company. I think generally, myself personally has. I think monthing into a tiny little screen, like everybody else has tended. I didn't respect. I didn't mental health the way I should. this started to compound, and a back problem. I had a disc because that pushed on a nerve, and I had very serious, which I couldn't sleep very well. VOs I started to take, it stopped the pain, but there wasn't wool, and so still had to kind of lead the company. And many months I was a very, very difficult, and beyond this year. So yeah, 2021 in a much better place now, but very, very challenging. You know, I haven't lost it. We've got to put things in perspective and work. I think been one of the toughest that I've personally been through.
So many people every day end up. What's your experience this year?
Things. I think it was to chronic stress and negatively compound the lack of I didn't have human connection, kind of came together and created, and people are calm now, and the team versions of that, it's struggling. And we do this Sutra amp where the whole team of questions, and they can leave of anonymous comments, and we've never seen anything like the stress way beyond anything I've ever. And so I think it is just now 18 months, and it has just gone. It's really affected across pretty much every company. Start of the lockdown companies were seeing was instead of people bunking off and watching Netflix all day, we saw this at Calm companies have. I think there was the average workday has increased. People are working from home harder. They can't really between work and non this compounding on the minds and bodies of. It's a crisis. It's an issue. We are taking this. We are our own team, and just a few things figuring this out ourselves. Figuring what our teams are. Unlimited holiday, but very hard to do. I've taken that during the pandemic, but where I wasn't on, at least didn't check Slack or email at least, and we made the decision. Mental health week. We've done sort of steps away. Previously, I'd have said, "Dear, who on earth gives the whole?" We are in such a competitive space. And we did it, and we agree it's one of the smartest in the history of the company, because to properly step batteries, knowing that calls they were missing or any, you know what, we came back a week later, it was still there. We're fortunate to make sure everything stayed up. Yeah, that was one of the smartest to support the mental health.
Have you made now in your life year, which you described, to make sure that taking better care of yourself as you did too?
There were a few other reasons why it was a very hard work, which were compounding all. I just think I've learned a better leader by practice and being more mindful. So many different things. One is sucked into the highs and lows. You know, nothing is ever amazing, it seems. And I think leaders who are celebrate the wins, but of negativity. When I don't go to bed anymore and waking up in the middle of I don't reach for my phone more as something like 60, but suddenly instead of letting your mind kind of calibrate, you're throwing your news cycle and everything else. I think the thing really think about that are the foundation, healthy and looking after yourself, to your friends and family and employees, into your body. Number 2, move your body. Number 3 is your mind. A practice that works for you is sleep. And it sounds very simple, but you expect them. And again, foundation, that is a very foundation to stand on to do in life.
More. A little bit more human. One wasn't on that list in like meaningful. It's interesting because when I was reading to you, just tell me to fuck off. Like I'm feeling, yeah. You speak openly much about relationships and that kind of thing. Something I struggled a lot to form over many years for a lot of ego problems.
Yeah.
Like unwilling to compromise. Flipping that question to you, gone through the years of and going through the tumult, inevitable whilst maintaining relationships.
Good question. I think because I've been focused on my business partner, they have been. I look back and I've made a long, kind of mindful and in the way that on that level. So, thinking and a lot of learning, lockdown, and not just a better leader and a better person. Yeah, very excited about what will.
Was there a moment where you realized that? Of meaningful, because it took me a long time to do in life. I thought people and being like, well, no Lamborghini. I thought that happiness, and at some point, actually, probably from learning people who were like further up that I maybe needed. There a point where I also had talk about study of men who were, and those that were married, healthier. They had less, lived longer, and then obviously I was actually in the office, and for some reason, it stumbled on. And I just couldn't. I was fixed on what he was saying. For me, in so many ways, and the importance of connection. I sent him an email. I was like, come on. So I'm so glad he did it with that. And that, if the North Star of life, need to start compromising some of this like selfishness, counterproductive, and pursue and connections.
So true. And not romantic connections, but friendship connections.
Hallelujah.
And when entrepreneurs on their vision and often you sacrifice so much. Just money, I think that's a byproduct of building. To me, what kind of puts you in and just going, charging. But even then, you're sacrificing. So being more thoughtful and a little for this next phase, I have recommended to get a little more balance to when I'm in supporting and looking after and spending time with my family that I'm calling, up for people. Playing with my daughter in the playground to check my phone, but it's not easy. Important because I mentioned those 4 things, but nothing in life more important than throughout our life. So that has been for me. And
I'm asking this question maybe because I feel myself, which is knowing the right answer, do it.
Yes.
How?
Such an important question. I'm still trying to. One of developing improve my empathy. I now am better at the people's eyes and very self-centered. I couldn't do it. And I thought, just the way I do, that if I thought there was an area they needed some book for them to, that's what I'd love to happen. Brains are wired very differently. They need that. She needs her instead of me trying to mention something, shift, and just again being more reactive. So when you hear better, the brightness developer, a meditate, see these warning signs, respond to them in the world. So if your girlfriend is saying something to you, understand what's behind it as well. That's important. Again, right all the time, but vital if you are to build strong in life.
Communicativity, all kind of mixed together. I mean, whether it's with your team or with your open and vulnerable about how you're on in terms of learning how it's with your girlfriend. What is the foundation?
Mother, many years I was jabbering away in a dinner as a young Michael. You have to use them in that ratio. Talking about grandma, years later, try and listen, and I try not to do that thing talking, just not next thing, and also that people have different life experiences. It isn't right and black or white. It's beautiful, and I think we've lost the intense and the immediate dope frazzled social. So yes, to listen where someone is coming. Whenever you're in a very good technique, wrong and getting nowhere and saying, and then instead of replaying what they and having them and going, oh my God, doing the same for you, and right. Simple little, I think, are very effective.
It's so true. My girl really opened my eyes to this. She said, and so I try what you've described, which is when she's finished of the events, back to her what she said to me, clear that I understand here. Her smile. It's like, when you're in combat, it's so it ends up being this like, and land it again. I'll try and land it. Satisfying, amazing thing. If you're trying to win a battle, so use that tactic of sort of.
Well said. Esther Perel, she's written some ships and podcasts the nuance of all this, struggling with their relationship. Homework with Esther.
The founders of an app like Calm People, and they're much good in the world, must calm humans ever. Peaceful, kind of imagine them being like living in bar, like just t-shirt with their that's what the way people assume it is. That for you and Alex
accurate, and I think we have certainly a little more like that on this. No, I think one of the reasons is that is not. We've tried to learn this practice that is in a very, I mentioned earlier, made it simple, added a bit of Hollywood style as Mary Poppins once will have. Sugar. So we have backed the authentic roots of adapt it for the modern age. Being calm isn't a lotus position on top of a mountain. It is about throughout your life, prove your own judge of all the people around you.
I think I always thinking of a guest, but in your case, you've to the world and it's so obvious for you. Like I've done in my life. And I'm like, you've done by building that business people you'll never meet. How? You know what I mean? If it calls for change in the world, believable. Like there's people in the. Do you ever feel that there's some corner of India or miles away that you made their day something horrific, something you've helped them cope. Do you know what I mean? That is just a thing.
Oh, appreciate you saying that. Thank you. We do we have what we call the webinar Slack at work, and we have a big meeting of how calm and day, and we're really stressed and yeah, it's going on the apps don't read all of them, but there's covering all aspects, incredible tonic to everything from little kids who find calm kind of for them to doing the daily calm every day in it, to addicts giving up, to people who are suicide because calm and has transformed them, bump inducing. And we feel very grateful that we get to work on this every single.
Well, thank you, because you've most incredible, the two foundational challenges, planet, and then making sure the people on it fulfilled, happy, and that's exactly what you're doing. Thank you. A big interested and trying to support whatever way I can. And actually one of the joint in a company called Psychedelics, sue me. Other than my world I did magic mushroom, reading the data and the research online, and I came across Compass Pathways Sciences, which is using therapies to help. And then when I joined the company, now I learned that
Yes.
Why did you?
Wow, I think this call on its own. I'll give psychedelics will incredibly important role in this. These compounds for decades and the war on drugs back in the could in the scientific well be able to help of lives. Calm's mission, and I think it's there not just with ketamine, with ibogaine, of different substances that in different ways with therapy. A golden key, much positivity for humanity. I invested, and Christian, and him years and years ago, he came into Tornado, and I thought, what that? And I was like, where? And so yeah, very supporter of that business.
I told you there's a closing tradition we have. It's a new one, but I love it. Has written a question. What is the pain?
Horrible. No one serves a very important. It alerts a problem. Without pain, are blind, and it's very pain, whether it's mental, is horrible, but it's valuable. And type of pain, rather than it's important to leave. I could give one we've talked a little bit about today. Nights, it's the pain morning in a cold sweat and frustrated with that. But recognize that mental pain is there for a purpose, telling me to sort out a problem in my waking hours.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's honor, house, but I won't. Cade, since Moshi Monsters and Shrek Rise then, and you've done even more good with Calm and along with Alec. Thank you for the inspiration. When I started out, and you stay with your sense of entrepreneurial prowess. So it's an honor to have you on the show, and superb as a guest.
Thank you for having these conversations. Lockdown, I lived on and I would run up and God knows how many thousand podcasts, multi wind, and just been delighted by that. And
well, you've continued to added to it in a really profound. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
We had to move into, I didn't know what to do. It got dark.
Casey, nice
To the king of vlogging.
prolific creators.
Throughout your story, the persistence towards a goal.
Because patience is so removed, this idea of six beautiful thing, it's not. When I saw video a day, 800 days to go from zero to a couple hundred year in and year out, $1,000 in debt, the loser. But opportunity, and then it went to 10 months. So you can want, but are you willing to do that? Don't bother, man.
Channels, you've made it.
That's when it got hard. What you should have in life is one of the idea that you have to win to be happy. I had by every death, but I wasn't running the marathon finish line. I was running it because my aim was insane, and I didn't know now.
Is this a new expect? Casey is a legend, people. He's one of the original content YouTube. And although what most of us don't know, story, the true covered motivations, arguably one famous, most acclaimed online creators. And it's a story that you'll relate. It's a story of a complete that was down and out, indistinguishable. More interesting, maybe for me as far, is what he's for the first talks about what is life now that he's not now that he's a little. And Casey gives him take that thing we consider a passion or a hobby, mountain, and make it a job. How do we into a career? Number one at the thing we everything. everything does. And that's the story you're going to enjoy. The episode starts, the one favor I'll ask you here, and you enjoy the guest, the Diary of a CEO journey by if you do, I'll make you a deal. So bigger and better, have a deal. Enjoy Casey, about your earliest, the man that sits with people's lives like a set of dominoes. What are those first dominoes here today?
Childhood was just completely unsuited. There was no, did you know, like dinner at 6, dark, you're going to be in trouble. And then like dark never being defined, kind of like a very loose, up, wandering child. You know, like I was telling them, there were railroad tracks. And one of the things we used to do first is we collect pennies on the railroad tracks. And very cool. Rate the tracks as it approached it. So the only way to do that is you'd put the coins on the trains really close. I don't know. I was in grade, like, how old are you then? I was like, little kid. A huge freight train coming tracks to try to get a flattened coin. Childhood was like.
What is the power, the gift that unsupervision so much? I think the reason I've always said this, when I was 10 years old and they weren't there when I woke up, or it was like they had assumed, they like me. So in that voice, I conducted a lot of experiments. What you're saying as well, that unsupervision, that allowed.
I think it's necessity is the mother of invention. If you're 10 are absent, get out. It's all I want to do as a parent now is hardships I had when I was, those hardships I had that made me, it is like this impossible as a parent. My kids, like we said, like if you can afford it, we're fortunate, like best school. But what's best for them, school, figuring it out. Do that all the time at public school. I protect them from that. So I send them to a really fun and cozy. And like, am I helping? But no, I think that exactly, I had no choice but to, like I worked I figured out how to make $1. Like when I was really, really young, and I'd make like $30. I started smoking pot, and I realized weed sales, there's a 4x return if you ounces and you break them next. But if you buy and you sell them as eighths, your rent return, $250 to QP. And then like, I haven't hit puberty. You guys are going to beat the shit out of me if I'm trying to befriend the guys that can business. Because I didn't have a choice.
Supervised. Where were your parents?
That's what I mean when I say my parents were great. And I do think that dad worked. He had no choice. Class. Like my parents had like clothes, but they always bought like 5-year-olds. And like we lived in a house that was comfortable, but like, there's never any, it was fine. Vacation, but it was always like go to like a town, shitty motel for 2 or 3 nights all the time. And very like hand kind of guy. And I still don't understand my mom. My mother is the aristocracy. Describe her side of the family as like religion entitlement with none of the money. My mother was kind of absent. And I think that we were just kind of left wanting.
They divorced at some point.
Really hard.
In what?
Hood always felt like I was like one of 4. Dan was the firstborn. Dan is such an incredible guy, and his sister was the only girl. Little baby brother, Dean. And then I was just kind of this like 18 months after my sister and 2. So it was like I was the squeakiest to get the most attention. That was characterized what mothers were for me. And then it just, the living in that house just kind of put up, which happened under very shitty, fucked up circumstances. Kids being blamed when the kids, I say all that without finding their best, but look, guys.
Say previously that you had cheated on him.
Like I can picture his posture. I remember his my mother, she's a good one. All of us humans have faults. It was manifest in a way at that time in her life. Me as a exact crystal clear, abundantly clear. Father's perspective. But I understand that his working 1,000,000 hours a week to keep his, and also like, you don't want to see it sucks. So just like ignore it is a very but I was like fighting with my mother out, obviously their parents about getting in trouble, all of that. So I was mad. I think part of me was just sort of confronting my dad.
At 40, your father. And you told him. How does one know that?
I mean, it was super apparent. I mean, very specific, just made it, anytime, obviously, fault my mom. It was probably help or a cry for attention, way of her letting the struggle she was facing manifest. Like, this is the only way I can kind of fucked up, awful thing.
That chapter of your child fingerprints left on you that say, what did that chapter of your life?
I don't think anything fingerprints. There was that I saw, like I knew exact specifics of how that plan was going to come, ambiguous at best, but like I planned. Like New York City, I remember it was like page 41 was a 2-page spread and I wouldn't let myself look at that emotional response to it. It's in the movie Big, because I was like, that's me, like to be the kid that I wish I could be. Like I know every word of the Bible for me. It is it's about this single idea, but like, and this was defined then when I was of my life is to realize all the kid. Like when you're an astronaut and like you're gonna have kids and I'm not gonna yell at them and you're all out of mac and cheese. It's always filled up with food. Like, you have a boss that's an asshole and any boss. And like all my promises could, and my sole mission was every single one of these off. The how was always the to do it. There was never even a death happen. Like there was nothing even close to that.
That age things that you could never, those things don't seem to have of that mission.
No.
You're 16, 17 years old?
Yeah. Moved out is such a fun, I picture like a movie. Right with my mom at age 50, school, this ultimatum. This is when they were splitting up, gnarly time in the family. I just remember thinking like, I was so tell me what to do, this and this, or get out of this house. And I just like, that night I stayed, his parents were like this, but also kind of absent. They were like, can I sleep here? And he's like, yeah, sure. His house. And then,
so you ran.
So I say moved out. It wasn't over there. It was like, I was close to like a stick with but they were great. They were super fun. And, they were like, I think they were 17 or 18. Started, one of them. And then like immediately she was pregnant. We had a kid. Challenging. But even so, like, I remember one moment where like she started, because she was like, and she's like crying and dealing with it. And what are you upset about? And she was, what are we going to do? We don't have a job. Like, what are we going to do? What do you mean? What are we going to do? It's going to be great. It's going to be fun.
Were you not scared?
Everything made sense. I was like, oh, this is great.
There's a naivety to...
Now I'm scared. I had nothing to lose then. Nothing. Like irritation. I thought I was a fucking degenerate, such a bad influence. And nobody knew me. Money, had no resources. And when you have nothing to lose, like a rat that's cornered out of this one, I'm so scared and everything I do, it's so good right now. I don't want to take it really, really happy right now like this. But no, there was a night that was with how naive I was. Son, Owen, when his mother, because I was just such a pain in the ass for doing so. But I was like, okay, I've got a plan in New York City, and I'm going to figure out.
What were you going to do in New York?
Maybe plan. There's always a plan. I don't know what this was until that point in my life. I had restaurants, watch a prep cook, or who takes out the trash and shit work, mop, ever done. My restaurant supplies, so like if you need to do, so you could always get me jobs in restaurants. And I remember like moving to New York City, I'm just not going to work in a restaurant. I think that's not work. But I had a city and like job and moved to New York. 19-year-old
kid that quits his job until that point. A guy that's in their 40s, a brilliant accident at the time. Like what are the brilliance? That is probably like, that's a stupid decision, but in genius.
I'd say I was a genius. It's just and fearlessness. But those stupid fucks on Instagram that about like, your dreams, pursue this, like one of you. Eat inspo porn, even though I'm very fanning the flames of it. There's so much truth to, and the reason why I hate that, it's too late. Post, it means nothing to you. Like it's doing, just put it up there to feel good about them. All of it, and what I mean by that is never do at age 40, do at age 19, which is just a 10th grade education, no work experience, a 2-year-old. Let me move to the most expensive world with no plan. I don't know that you could ever do that. When I say those cheesy quotes are true, you kind of have an obligation in life that if you feel something that is through with that. Now, I think now I can articulate it, which idea of privilege. In the United States of America, able and do this, like now I'm on welfare and got free diapers, but all the feed my work 60 hours a week in a kitchen at $7.25 an hour salary. I was like, I'm like the luckiest person in the world. Like, do you know Dan would do? And I just walked in. The guy, I've got 2 legs that work. I have a brain. Like I'm the life. So like if you show a ticket and it's like, oh, I only had a baby when I was fucking ill. Like they'll just push through this. And it's like, I want to live in New York City. It's like
the privilege there sounds like this objective privilege.
I push back. And when people say that, I mean, privilege of mindset. No, name one time humanity, like what the Sumerians 1,000 years ago, name one had the kind of opportunity that the West have. Like for never. Easier for our parents. Maybe like post-war, a little bit easier than it was for me 20 years ago, but give me a fucking break. It's the hard kneel compared to what they were 200 years ago. It was like the died in London in the year, like the 4th most popular. Like they're dying because their teeth are fucked up.
Why don't, there's going to be another guy right now that's like the seafood restaurant on this, and he might be listening to this right as you say that, but why on that point and take the lead, potentially nothing to...
Line from Is it like the world needs ditch diggers? Very cynical take on it. It's like, not everybody wants it. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think like in life, you can't want whatever, creating that.
To want it, but they don't.
Of course. And I really fucking wanted it. Inspirational podcasts, and you'd already be fucking doing it. To be defeatist, it's just the only goal that anyone should have in fulfillment. And like happy could not be further from here about rock stars and people that we see as sort of like the industry, where are they all fucking killing them and like all that dark level. It's like, because that's just happiness for you. It was like my best friend in the whole world, like with him for a little while. Like we've been, like when I moved to in the hometown, washing dishes, I gave him that job. And now 5 years later, he still lives, he still has 5 years ago, he's got a very, what I would say, archetypal life. And like, I look at him of like, he has this amazing relationship with brilliant little kids that they get to school every single day and runs with. He has a whole part of that life. I want to like live on away from all this. Life was something completely different that I didn't understand when I was younger, but to that. And that's why the pie in the sky is just in defining those.
Bronnie Ware, I meant to use that, I think it's called palliative care, who interviewed people with one of them, what their biggest regret in their life was not living a life. And for those people do have this aspiration, I don't know, become a ballet dancer, and you are held back by fear. Anything that one can offer, take, that seems to be the hardest, like getting off the job. That you came to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, I think failure is like bad, but failure, you're not willing to accept that. I keep failing. Anvil, the story of Anvil, a whole video about this. So I made there's a movie called Anvil or something like that. Anvil are a rock band, and they opened for like 50,000 people kind of thing. They never broke through in the act. They were always like the bridesmaids. And the movie opens in the 80s, and Anvil just shows the lead singer. And he drives a little van, he delivers making minimum wage, like bitter. And he performs as like this middle-aged 6 people, and they'll be just all. And the movie, this guy, like he's just not willing to record an album. Nobody buys shit. Like it is the most you've ever seen, because he's to give up that dream. Like life. And then it's fantastic. And Anvil blows up. All of a sudden, he is that superstar arenas in Japan and shit. Had he given up at, there's just been another person who threw in the towel. Maker saw this story. I need to tell that story. Had he not been willing to take failure, 30 years of failure, never found success. Extreme version, interrupting myself, is because that's basically the story I just told you. The director reached out, his name, the lead singer of Anvil. He's like, I was like, yes. I was like, yeah. I think failure, I think the fear of failure, people are going to think about you.
That's what I heard through. That's almost a persistence towards a goal. Because in that situation, I question whether Anvil's success was a journey itself, was that see the same level of like a bystander would go that there was various you to get to various success daily vlogging. I think it took you 5 years, 400,000 subscribers. Your story, there's this guy he wasn't doing this for any particular. What role does persistence play?
I mean, his persistence is such a word, but the word I've been, because I think it's so much less persistence is like a little kitten hanging off the branch. You know what I mean? But it'll never say unattractive. One piece of advice you give to it, and patient above every, because like if we're willing to stick with it for trying, in which case, you're not going to be that in the palliative care saying, because you didn't give up. You just it's like, I've got 1 day left, shit off. But sexy way. Remove the sexiness. You need to remove that his generation has started with is this romantic, beautiful thing. It's not. Like failing and having everybody roll their eyes, whether you're a musician who's paying attention to you, 0 views, like it's embarrassing. You're a loser. Talked to Mr. Beast, his war stories, YouTube, and he was using his like monitor, the built-in webcam. No one watched. They're all deleted. They're terrible. And it's like 2 of his friends and both acknowledged how terrible they were. Like, that's failure. Being told over and over and over how much you suck. By a lack of views or no one laughing at your joke or no one showing up your, like that sign store, no one buys your fucking sucks. Failure. So like combine that with patience. Are you willing to do that for 20 years? It can bother, man. And that's why I like the this of the word, because that is persistence. Persistence is to persist, man. You'll get across that's beautiful and fun and
patience that you and many others. Because objectively, any say are a loser and they suck and their parents are anyone, their apparent incentives in that moment.
I think very me, and I think probably he and I have talked about it, but plan B, there was no other option. I had no back to. It wasn't like and there was like a job for me where I could just say, fuck it, and go to a nicer apartment. And it was like, if this doesn't work, I'm driving an hour, like date, so I can pay for on a fucking WIC, infants and children. It was a card, diapers and milk, and that's it. With it wouldn't work. Like that was the fallback. That was every single time I moved to New York City, I had a 3-month sublet that my brother paid for. Like, cool. It was, and it was like a month, $400 a month. In any event, that leave in New York, and I was like, fuck, what do I do? This guy was like, hey man, I need a couch. My dad paid to sleep on my couch and just give me like the way the money goes to me. And I was like, then I slept on his couch for from September 1st, 2001. Then the entire apartment blew in it and him in it. Like later that day, like getting on the phone and like the towers are started being like, I come home now, come back. What are you talking about? Why would I come back? Your apartment, you have no job, you have no money. And now I'm like, I'm just later, Dad. Like that's patience. What fuels that patience? The play to Southeastern Canada.
I read a study on A thinking, and they tell them to do a puzzle, and it correctly. They take 2 groups and they say, okay, snack. Then they take another group and they do it correctly, you'll get a snack. But you can also get the same snack at the vending machine. And where they're given a plan B, levels drop, and their plummets as well, just the same reward down, performance drops. The psychology, and they've done it is pretty solid evidence. Plan B can reduce motivation.
Completely. I mean, like I wish I knew that. Beautiful. And also what it means to have like I remember the thing I used to, when I first started to find success, I would always be like I'm running from a pack. If I slow down, be eaten alive, keep going, is fat torn to pieces. I love that. Like that sounds, I love that. It was such like I pitied the friends. Like I remember my summer here, Ellen with this like, I thought the girls were pretty, but like these rich with them. And I just remember like the way and they're my age, we're all like, hundreds of dollars, always had taxis. It's like a private jet, all this money. And I would always like less of a jealousy and more just fantasize. If I was the same with an unlimited amount of apartment, she lives in like the 20-room apartment and she lives alone, a 200 square foot studio with Craigslist. We have to in the morning. And I feel like, and then they got older and as I got older, of wandering and not sure where all of that was for me, such a defined path of any of those luxuries. Right? I now look back at.
So how do you do that for your kids?
Question, because it's like, I never want that game of like, oh, Bill came. Like I always do something, but like, like I always kind of felt like a tribute the way that other people were. And like, I can remember when I would meet a young lady, we go back to your place and because I like lived in a halfway house and I bribed
my house for anyone that doesn't know in Europe,
where you get out of jail normally yet. And so they put you into a building.
How did you get in there?
Door. With like a little slot. You'd have to check in and check out. Do you have any open room? Came back with a carton of cigarettes. Like, I need a room. 531 is yours, right? Your name, $50 a month cash or whatever.
Interestingly, when you tell that story of being an and all these things, objectives, oh man, I feel so sorry for you. But this speaks to how a mindset and a perspective can turn heaven into hell.
Yeah, so the reason why I learned about I had a friend who lived there and he was like, and he's like, it's cool. And he's like, some immigrants and a lot of them are jail. I was like, okay. He's like, some of them are homeless people that I can handle all that in there. And you're no bad.
Casey, I know
video came into my life before Catalyst is baby mama dumped me, hanging around my brother Van, who I like. And he had just bought, he lived in Brooklyn. He had bought like the one that was like shaped like a TV and like a dog, plastic, like kitty boat to play. And the dog was getting a bath with the footage that came with it. And I would just kind of edit that footage over. So I bought a camera, like film stuff, then edit videos up, figure this out. And I like maxed out a couple videos. And then I was like, that's it. And then I moved to New York. Like when I moved here, it was this huge, like a backpack full of clothes and stolen the next day.
And you're like,
yeah.
What reasons why you were storytelling generally?
I have an answer to that, but I don't know if this to it or maybe I've just said this so many times. My default response felt like I never had a voice. I was like, kids or like I never did. Teachers never listened to me. Getting in fights and stuff. So my friends never heard. And then I was able to kind of articulate a form of a video and people would respond. I think that was part of it. But I don't know. I think I also just about it that felt so fun in the end that you would have.
Did you like movies?
Yeah, but I was never like a cinephile. Favorites, like I loved. And I do remember this progression. And then you got to go do, and like pharmaceutical had like nearby towns, like a lot of scientists, and they got to go spend like there's a submarine military base and see what it's like to be in the Navy. And mine was, I want to work at because I want to get all day. And they're like, are you? And he was like, yeah, I worked a day shift. Nobody's like, we have to put away those movies. And I was like, now what are we doing? He's like, just sat there and watched TV for like, if I could get into the, like the Quentin Tarantino studied film.
Do you think that's part of the reason your style has really original in so many ways? It feels like you are in fact someone, and that's why people resonate.
I always say that was because I was never taught the right course to find my own way to do it. Kind of thinking is sort of like video creation became computers and editing software. First time ever in the history of humanity, early 2000s, you could buy like a camera and you could buy a computer and plug it in. So my aspirations and those happened at the exact same time to create. My hard drive was 10 gig. It was like 12 or 16 minutes. So no, I made really short. It's like I didn't have a choice. I had to be a short. But I do think, like the lab education and that capacity, a different kind differently anyway.
Do you look by original subject? When you to the world or business, take the risk of being the issue is, and that originality is you then look up to them and almost that person with their aspirations for like Casey. It's a very logical flawed because there can be
flawed. It's what YouTube. This like the YouTube, and Jimmy's a genius. Well, Mr. YouTube is brilliant. This is not to take away from him at all what he's done over the fact that him. But the fact that what he's doing, that platform that I hate, very honest. His goal is never, and now in the most true of terms, I'll look back at it in a way of for me to take my thoughts and articulate 6-8 video and share it with the world. Like Jimmy's from day one. He was a kid who had no friends. He had nothing. To take me to the highest plane, all that. Jimmy is just a company, Feastables, aviation company. Mr. about his philanthropy, successful and helping as many people about making a video about what his passion is about. So for him, it's beautiful. Productive sense, when people look at that, a YouTuber, all that matters. And I put next to no value. Again, this isn't to take credible, but when people aspire to get that view count up, I fucking hate it. I do think it's because not knowing what to do successful, that's how I'm successful. And it will never work. It requires enough like, no, why do I want to do this? And then you go and do that. And at least it'll be true.
More in that case than path here and I can get 1 million subscribers or Casey, or there's this other path which I and it's never been done, it's going to like this stuff and it's probably not. Why? What's the case true path?
I think that truth matters. Direct. There's the movies that have the Academy Award for Best Picture are the highest grossing movies, and like 3 times. One of them I think was Gone with that. The movies that the world determines are the most important contribution to culture, and it's never the same movies that make. Transformers 9 was remember what happened. I think there was a dino. But like you see a movie that see Little Dieter Needs to Fly, Herzog, you see the Anvil's thinking about it. I haven't seen that movie every day. So that matters. Year-old grown adult, like that's what matters. Junk food, there'll always be an appetite for fucking bullshit. And those are popular this week and will disappear. Musicians that like change you, like that song that like, never forget that. If you say you want to be an artist, how could there be any other goal but in this full circle? I think the magic of, I don't think he's ever wanted to be. Honesty is why I have so much respect for. He's an empire too, and he's done that through video creation. Again, neither here nor there. Me, it's like great, and it changes. Look at this, the work, not his Oscar award weirdo music video as a kid, and I watched this for. What's Up Fat Lip made with Fat Lip, popular hip hop artist who didn't have any spike, but don't have any money to make they're like put Fat Lip in a clown camera. It's like ever be a filmmaker. Just trying to get the most views or whatever, and his friend Fat Lip trying to make some. I've done that for me. And so like inspirational quotes on Instagram, like make the thing that could affect someone. That's gonna get views.
Both you and Jimmy as pioneers, and seemingly with you strike me as someone that was really the art form and the storytelling, the creative production. He took this, it seems like he too much more about both of them
completely.
Jimmy
is the most important of YouTube. And I think he's one of the most entertainment, full stop. Anyone has built an example is what he's doing. Studies taught about him at Harvard. I think what he is a true sense of the word.
About the views?
It's easy to say. I'm like paying rent anymore and usually don't check the prices at restaurants. It's easy for me to. Obviously, like there was a time when that really were important to me, but I've a level of feel, so it's doing good work.
If one of your dad, I want to be a YouTuber, and what would be the first surface level?
Dean is like she's so good, but she's always like take it easy, case intellectualize it. But I'm like, you can make whatever you want. Right? And she's like, why? And I'm like, well, I just want to make sure you're making it, not because you're looking, I don't know words I use with her, but like, I don't know that she would know that word. But and that's when Candace is like, take it. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, I think like the concern is why? Like if she's fuck yes to help you on this mission, because your little girlfriend at school has likes and you want to get more likes, pump the brakes, kid. That's
What if she says, I want to be?
the same thing. Why? Like, why? Why do you want to do? And also like fame is a very weird, very strange thing. The most strange thing about it's not, you think like you felt some degree of fame. And if you're in the habit, understand that no way. There's no, and been over here, someone aspire for that is like no way.
What's the warning?
The warning is just like if it's a byproduct of what you're doing. But if fame is then you're stars with the fucked up faces and like, what are you doing? Like, why are you here? You're benefiting the world, you're elevating the world. This is pure like just for some journey that you're on. And this is one of those moments where my wife would be like, Casey, she's mac and cheese. I want to be bigger than Mr. Beast like this.
What if she says, because I love creating videos, Dad, on how to be a
You
successful.
should see her. She has a whole nations of her stuffed animals, her hands in it. You're not allowed to, but she makes those and they're really good. We support her, so help her make it. We're family. I message thread on Instagram followers. Candace passed the phone around to watch her Instagram associated with why she's doing it. Mm-hmm. My sister texted, you've sent me a scenes TikTok account. We're like, no.
Makes your experiences, right?
Man. Keep
them far away from views and
from seeking validation.
Pray to that.
Yeah, but I'm old age that you are right before I had an Instagram. Much more you know than like for an 8-year-old, that's the world place. Like social media up, we're seeing the manifesting, we're seeing Instagram, we're seeing like all of these because of social media. I think wanting to protect your kids from that, not just someone who is, I think of it because I was outside of regular old me, and then it was on social media that I found. But I was able to do that with clarity of being an adult for 15 years before. On
social media, you found real success. Is that due to your? Was that the?
Yeah, 100%. Like Van and I, my brother Van and I had a show that we sold, and that television show was exact full stop.
Only 8 episodes. 22
minutes, 22 to 24. We watched that daily show. It looks like an identical. It's this, but that was before YouTube was in 2000 or launched into really just a place for watching like Charlie Bit My Finger. That show on HBO, highly reviewed, but nobody watched it. Like it wasn't a breakout success. And then Van moved to own, and I was like, I just want to do that. I tried to sell it, and they didn't get it great. Like I showed it again, and I met with the heads of empty people, and they're like, "This is all like fantastic, but we're not sure this." I was like, "Okay, cool." Yeah, and then I put it on. Well, you talk daily vlog. I was considered like a celebrated YouTuber. I had 80,000 subscribers. A decade to get there. I started in my maybe, and by 2015, I had subscribers. I had a couple movies that went 5-10 million. All of my movies did 1,000 views, which was amazing. And people liked my videos, saw my YouTube videos, and I was doing that back then. So very successful in my daily vlog, whatever that was. 8 years to go from a couple 100,000 subscribers, from a couple 100,000 subscribers to 18 months. Explosion that I had never seen in my.
What's the lesson that you take to your compounding or?
That's that thing, patient. Different. I mean, certainly I was working much day. It was just like this square peg, get through 1,000 round holes for years. And like sometimes it would kind of fall through, and then all of a sudden, like the fucking planets aligned, the sun shined through, like the light came through, the city of like 2015 was becoming something more up on YouTube. Like 9 years, and people never, and no one, significant production quality, 15 years of experience, and make all of that to YouTube, like aspect of it. So it was like one video of me running around New York lunch, doing something. It's like, oh, who's this fun, whatever. Dude, oh, this is kind of fun. I get to hang out. Do it 300 days in your life. It's like it snowballs in every way. And that's what those it snowballs financially. Ever call it a 1/10 of a cent. Pretty much if you're getting 10 views, million views, the money starts. Means you always wanted to work with creative directors at an AGOs, but all of a sudden you go from a month to 100 million a month. Creative directors seeing your videos, and it happens so quick, so exciting, and so fun.
In some respects, like the 15 years of work and craft and patience, and people might look at those moments and go, you just. But
they're right. It was luck. Luck is where opportunity. I had that moment for 15 years. Opportunity opened up and I was right there. Most of us see opportunity, just fly ready for it. And too, my friend Max pointed this out to me, which was like, when I launched that in 2015, I had a show on HBO dollars. I had produced 2 of them. And I won the Cat Spirit Awards, which was like the films. Like I made movies for night. I had worked for myself years in my own, every definition achieved. The exact time I launched that was 200,000, meaning I was on welfare getting checks so deep in debt, the year preceding MIT. And as a greater honor than just academic institutions on the invited there. Whatever I do on the other side of this, and what I was doing there was doing fun stuff like that.
You read this. What was inspiring or perspective watching Twitter?
I went to MIT worked out of the MIT Media Lab group, was called the Social. It was 8 or 10 artists, who was a painter, and I'm incredibly all the time. He's a mentor of mine, somebody I speak to. I know what I was doing there. Like I was given no assignment. And I didn't have a pregnant wife, was a lone man in her. And all I knew to figure out what to do next. Of Hatching Twitter has since become a good friend. Amazing book is it revealed this that was a tech to chaos. Like all very smart Twitter. But like then me, like you have like regular people and then like these two. And I think that like regular and fully smart. And I think smart, persistent people that wanted to do it, I can do that. I left MIT, I was at a G company, but it just sounded like a great idea. But the whole time I was at MIT, I wasn't making my credit cards and off my debt, line of credit at Chase. And then I started just meeting with people, telling them I want. And yeah, and so $100,000 in debt. I couldn't afford my wife, and that's when I started a technology company. Since long preface about like I had found all that success. If I didn't want to do the puzzle, burn it to the ground, $1,000 in debt, and do something. Never written a line of code in my life. I started a software development company, a line of code in my life. But let me do that. And that's what I did. I don't know. I'm not sure what I was thinking.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. Idea.
Point. You're what?
35. Those guys were such superstars like that in the social, that scene, that just dorm room writing code with all going to the party with all the hot girls. I want to be that guy. If anything more explosive, it was like I had financial success. $1 million from the HBO thing, cut it in half from taxes. You're $400,000 left over. That's $200,000. You're making like, we're not rich. Like I want to be a billionaire company. That's how I'll get there.
I mean, when I look through your seemingly unqualified, he pursued over and over again into movies. There was no formal objective standards. No. You weren't qualified.
What was I thinking?
I didn't like, because I think not a tech entrepreneur. They would like disqualify themselves. In most people's lives, they're actually buying themselves psychologically, their approach, which is you seem to be but you're objectively.
I had this conversation with Candace, my wife. What do we daughters to show them? And if I knew what to do, if they're their hands. Like my son is 25 and sick, but and I wish I had been full and encouraging hands.
Why?
Because something about life, build and do things. There's this that's on TV right now. The handyman toilet become the billionaires are standing outside of home. They're like, we'll trade for. They're sitting around. They're like, I wish I'd just anybody tell me. Or what I feel, what I was able to. It's just like there are aspects of life and that you learn from, and like if you don't know what you want to do in life, you hate what it is that you love. Filmmaker by scrubbing out childhood restaurant in Connecticut. You're just hating it. 90 days stinks. Hated it. It's a wish I was doing. It's like, no. Instead, I'm sending you to this diesel engines. But I don't know that I can do blue-eyed daughters. Ask me about what it means to be unqualified. I don't know. But, when my bicycle was broken, I didn't have the tool to build the tool that I could then fix. I wasn't qualified, but I had to find in everything that I did. It was the same. I think that I'm qualified.
Part of that, as I hear you say that, and with your hands, is part of that because, like the example there, is or when there is a challenge, you learn at that very young age, can solve that problem. And if I can close the gap in where I am, is allowed for the rest of your life. Where the gap between Casey making videos to the time in your life that Casey can, and a lot of people never learn that to close the gap. Or I don't have the skill. Or I'm scrubbing pots, but that's evidence. And the bike and
DM me. Something like, I don't know, like how to figure out who or something like that. And like, there's like 5 goals in question.
Max, a friend of mine, former.
Is that going to tie prison to break?
Mac, who's a former Big superstar. He's an incredible guy. Like last week, which is how
Is that
does...
what and I think about that a lot. Close to me. Couldn't find his partner. He couldn't find, and he thought she was away from me. And he called me, what do I do? And I was like, give me all of the information. And he gave me all the information. And he asked him all these questions. I'm writing it all. And then I'm like, what are you doing right now? I was like, do not go to the police station. You don't do that. Here are the things you can call the bank, find out when her password is on her iCloud account. And I was like, do all that and call me back. Then I hung up with him and I'm like, and it wasn't a moment of, is this problem that's not me? That thing that's like says NASA, where it says in like 100 fail because of me. It was like, no, I'm the only right now. I called him. It was very Jason. 11 minutes later, she's asleep on the couch. And like, it was me, who is a cool, like helping me figure that out. But like interesting, like there was something about the fact, a total uncertainty. There has to be a higher authority, and how antithetical, which was there's no higher authority. There's better than I can solve this. I think I applied that to most life. Really broke way back 1980, whatever the one, that great year. Crashed into the front of the car. The estimate to fix it was like 22. And the insurance company and I was like, fix this car myself. Baby mama being like, what could it possibly be? The whole front of the car apart. I did a good enough job. $150 to replace us all back together. Podcaster like, Casey, what are you doing with your time? I wanted to build my girls a tree fort. What carpenter do I hire? I was like, no, I'm going.
Can it be?
How can it be? Like, give me enough time. I will build you.
Mantra for life. There's an air of naivety.
It can be. It's like a software development company. You now about building that company? No chance. There's no.
For what, $36 million a success?
Yeah, there's a million failures though for that one. And the failures keep me up. Success puts me to sleep. Really key. The night is the holy grail. We're all out of money. Like my partner for the last year and in my pocket. Everybody got to have a job and everybody got paid. One of the aspects of every employee that had equity would get immediately upon the sale. Everybody would be psyched, but they weren't. No, we signed up with you. This is fun. This is a salary from Facebook. And now we just get to go. In that moment of all of these people that it was like, yeah, I got to there. I was like, I got to be a million. I disappointed, got me there. Like the people could reach the top. And maybe that's unfair. That's how it felt. Feels weird. Employees right now. I don't have an assistant. Producer had to call a friend last night to be like, I haven't heard from Casey tomorrow because I don't check my email schedule. I have no one. And I think a lot of that post-traumatic stress of employees at my tech company, I'm down and never wanted to. I was just like, fuck it, I'll just mop my own. I miss an appointment. A million failures of manager that in the moments of elation selling that company.
What was psychology throughout that period? Incredible journey to build this business. Most tech startups run out of cash. Congratulations, amazing. You know, you've got money now. The day you get the call, you call your investor, good friend of mine, and an investor in one of my, and then it's done. How are you feeling inside your head?
I mean, good. It was like super finish line.
A month after that.
A month after that, you know, like CNN, Turner bought our, signed a 3-year deal with them and till the finish line. They fired later. So how do we build this? And it was exciting amount of naivety on my part of that looked like interpreted as ambiguity from to do wasn't at all ambiguity to lead. My lack of awareness of that is something I look back at. Like, this is what I mean by like 1,000. I can tell you an authorization that like company, because they're like, this kid, we want this amount of money and has a technical know-how and partner. And like, this is a great influence. And then has around him to help promote that. I can say, so wanted to exploit my reach. Like they had some million commercials for a watch company. I want to work with you. Being a big corporation and us been them wrecking that culture. The reason why we didn't succeed only because of me. To recognize that. Ego, I attribute that to.
You doesn't belong at CNN though. Yeah.
But like, yep, I can do whatever I want. I'll fit a company for CNN. Like if I built that company that they gave me, I was working with at CNN, they're brilliant people. And it didn't succeed was because of me. And I don't know, when I look back at it, it's like a month hubris. Mm. Look what I did.
What about 11 months later?
I wanted to get out. When they said we're shutting down the company, super weird. Like I was in, and they're like, we're going to let you know for the December 31st. I like call CNN. I'm like, what's going on with the company? Keep going. And they're like, got back. And they're like, we're going to meet here. And I'm like, your offices. They wanted to meet like a head of HR or something. And they're like, we want to let you both know to shut down the company or whatever they said. Like a thing, it was kind of what I expected, like a sigh of relief, weirdly.
What does your plan become for your life? You know, you're this guy that's list you had as a child. Channels, you've made in movie making. 11 months later, after leaving at the neutral location, the future.
That's when it got hard. Dark. Moment of real darkness in my life because of those external factors. But fame then did not understand. Like I had done like $3 billion in 2 years. And it was the real version of me. I wasn't dating. I didn't have on a super. I wasn't like, I'd always say like Durden, Brad Pitt's character, met Brad Pitt. He's not, you meet me. I am the, and the insane. Like we had to move in New York City. Like it got that kind of fame. When I was winning, like company, all this cool shit to talk about, you know, you're like, I felt like I wasn't winning. Like I was exhausted from it. Hired me. So I wasn't building anything with them to do, but I still being like swarmed. And I did kind of like started this other company, partner at the time, Paul. In fact, I started up a new daily show, Dan. That was kind of exciting. It just felt like a bunch of sort of slow.
It's a very
first time, like it was that thing that I referred to before, which is like happiness and fulfillment with winning. One, like this was the first time of financial, you know, like it meant financial security for the rest who couldn't afford diapers. Journey, that is a big box. You know, would drive around in my car, copies of my videos. I had 3. That's a big box things. And instead of feeling, you know, like I was standing on the top of the mountain, what this isn't it. I wasn't running the marathon finish line. Like, I don't know where any of my medals are. The running, like I loved it. And I didn't know what to do. Weird. It got dark for New York and moved to LA. And
there's a fly on the wall then in that moment. And what do I see in home?
Really nice casino. It was a really nice house. Wallpaper. Like I had a little baby at the time. Just kind of at home, hiding. I didn't want to go outside. Just unsure. I think so much of our decision to move was a disaster to move back to New York. Enthusiasm to leave New York, all of this. And I picked Moon, like nobody would know me there and chill out. So there was like, we didn't move for another 7 months, hiding and waiting.
Kind of indirectly made her because of that whole, you know, everything, which means that both live a normal life, can't just walk down. How is she feeling? Adds strain to the relationship.
I mean, it was always, that's a whole nother podcast, but Daily Show was effective. I was just pulling stories, so life experiences. Let me figure out, I'm coming on your podcast and talk about what this is about. And then I make that today. And so it was just this vacuosis would get sucked in. So she was my best friend. So she would time, motive, but not all the time. So it had this, you know, on her. Some of it was company then. And it that people were like, oh, I love what she did. A kind of light on her brilliance, redesigner, and she embraced all of that. It was a big stress on our relationship.
As you know, Whoop are a sponsor. Me being the biggest fan of their product changer for my sleep, for my recovery. Whoop is a wearable device me that not only tracks but also guides you to be the perfect gift thing, or is impossible to me, because it's the kind of thing offering real-time benefits forever. Perfect present for a loved one or for you. This festive season, I recommend checking out Whoop and the community here on the Diary of not just for you, but keep this to yourself. .whoop.com/get that discount. Let me know how they get on. A quick sponsor of this podcast, and I'm in like this in my life where I'm extreme all over the place and I'm recording TV shows in America, and here is I'm someone that regardless of professional demands, want traditionally complete, and that's exactly, you're looking to try here for the first, join the hooligan family. If this next 10 years of your life, what is the narrative of this?
I don't know. No. There's no story full establishing shots of city and nothing happens. That's what I feel like in my life. It's so beautiful. I'm doing nothing. I get paid jobs and I take those and I think I do a good job with them. I'm selling out or something because I can, but I'm mostly I created years ago. Like I race home from 30 in the afternoon so I can be home. I just like sit around. Like you invite me to go to the Met Gala. I just go home, play with my kid thing. Like kids go to bed at the gym for like an hour, other Candace for an hour. Like that's my life. In the day, like go hang out in my studios, like fun shit in it, make things out of wood. Tell Candace I worked a lot today. I just do that over and over. And then it's like Christmas and we go visit her and we like go to the beach. Coasting through life right now.
The new Casey seemed really like bucket list thing that they'd written when they were seems to be.
Yeah, I mean, but this is not as sustainable right now, but I'm hyper cognizant.
Why?
Like 3 years, but moreover, like a sense of true, like in what is a big, I make something that I think is good. Great. I think I'm a good dad, that's a good husband. That's that part of the life. Fitness focus. And I care a lot. That's a part of my life. But then there's majority of the pie chart is, and even if I make something that's good and I don't, that checks that. My mother-in-law's for 70th. Will you make me one of those slideshows? Picturing like, you drop all the photo show maker and push a button. We like played it at her 70th birthday. Saw that. Like that. And I don't feel like I'm right now. I don't feel like if I'm looking at that as like instead of going to the gym, I'm like going for a jog. I'm like when I get to the office, instead of like great, which I can do, putz around and organize my tools. Just
before we start recording about this word boredom, not because plus so many of the creatives I've spoken to need to have chapters and sickly where you're just they kind of cut the new thing. Maybe stand back from the picture to see the whole, I don't know, get some inspiration from something.
Yes. Look, my pendulum swung so making a video a day, 800 company with 38 employees and a brand new baby at home. Like didn't sleep for 3 years. Like millions of people with their eyes on me. And like, you could definitely just direction now. Like I just need this. But I don't accept that to sort of justify my craziness in general, sort of lays life. Like I rest right now. And I'm not doing this because I'm doing this because I can. Busting my ass every day right now. I'd be busting I can. I'm not right down the hallway or want. And I'm very hear you, but I do not. This is just pure. And that's all it is. Can't wait to go this afternoon.
It's very ever said that to me because people defy that. It's very interesting from you. No, the answer to that? Ultra fans of you. I think there's a case. What's the next big thing?
I don't. But I've been saying this for a while. And this version of my life, I have movies, YouTube videos. Well, and awesome. And some are deep, some are one days of writing those. I just want to go to make these videos and put them out. And like I deleted the YouTube, look at comments or views, any sense. I don't do it. I just click upload. That's what I wanted. And when I'm beating myself up about there's nothing stopping me from doing it. I keep kicking the can. I want to do right now. I want to put my head down. I think are great. Give a shit.
You talked about privilege.
Yeah, that is the ultimate privilege. Like there's nothing privileged existence.
Privilege. You've got the lottery ticket.
I think of like just honest. I don't have to. I'm embarrassed to say that, but that's the truth.
Jack Sylvester, he's acted it with me since the very beginning. He got into video 2 years ago when we first started this. He is his dream guest.
Glad I didn't cancel about it. It's like, it'd be cool just to sit in my office. I'm glad to be.
It's about 19-year-old Casey. What is he needed to hear at that point that he did speaking to all the Jacks out there? That
a quick, like, and then knowing that I'm like my 25 great movies out, it makes Spike Jonze video to make with Fat Lip. I had to go make shelves and I might not have been motivator. Like that makes me want. But what's the one piece of it? Nobody cares about. Ever made clear to me, optimistic, inspired. Like, I think that creative, or you want to exist on YouTube, an artist or a painter, you think that everybody's paying attention to that. It kind of controls how you think and nothing to lose. Like, how are people going to react to, like, and the reality is nobody gives a so focused on themselves. Time for you as a creative person, like you're totally exactly what feels right to you. On that trajectory, before about being novel, about being a photocopy, that photocopy, you will never be the moment you accept the fact that do your thing, nobody cares. On that path, you will just get better. Sprinkle on that patience I was going. You keep that persistence smash into like opportunity. Will smash into opportunity. And like you're dead. But you asked a big question.
We have, that's where the last guest leaves a question for the four. You are, many of vlogging, a weekly vlog where loaded, I don't know, eight or so videos,
Congrats.
Engaged audience. You are the king of vlogging in my eye. The question I wanted to ask you selfishly, what do you make of that? It's been on a vloggers back in the day. I watch you and then, as you said, I felt like I was your friend. The algorithms changed, case that there's daily vloggers anymore. Even I've fallen down a little bit. Think of...
I was doing my daily vlog. I like the ultimate match of reality. You've got Kim Kardashian show, and in producers and directors and writers, fabrication. And it's just like, that was the optimistic trajectory that I saw. And I think it just did that way. Instead, it was a pursuit of, I think it was corrupt. I don't fault anyone. It was corrupted by the view count. Turned into something much less interesting. That crashed and burned. And really, really interesting. Niche, succeed. Fucking wonderful to see. To succeed back in the day. Like, you had to fit in. You had to be, we have these micro, finding their audiences, like it's all he does. His channel's huge. Like, they're friends of mine. Like, I was on their whole channel is video gaming device, wildly successful. They've released, and that is so amazing. Like, your vlog out now, but like, I'm sure there are intimacies of your life and how you're able to lean into that niche. It had all this potential and it crashed ashes. We're seeing these sort of beings sprout up, and it continues.
And you're not tempted to, on a daily basis,
having any notoriety.
That's the only reason you don't do it. So interesting.
The thing that I've fantasized just disappears off the face of the, and then it's coming out in 6 months, and anyone talks about, and then it goes and disappears, crawls back, and it's like, that is the ultimate. That guy, is he married? I don't know. I don't know. What is he doing? I don't know. What are his hobbies? Nothing about him. But word to every movie. I appreciate that man for his artistic country. That is the ultimate. It's like selling of me and my personal art, and that starts to fuck when the head come up to me, and it's that just freaks me out. How long have we been talking?
The question left for you is, like, you want to give, what is one piece of, yes, me, Stephen, but might be nervous to tell me.
When you set up a studio city, don't into fucking Brooklyn. Figure out how to build this studio so all of your guests are 40 minutes away. No, nothing.
And until it's great feedback here on your skateboard.
I thought of.
Oh shit. Appreciation.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
It's really about the principles of, and the artistic side of inspired me so profoundly, and so clearly in what you produce has made me rethink a lot of things that I do in an important way. And you're someone further up the ladder, creators like myself are climbing. So it mean that I don't the darkness or the confusion through. So I thank you for that. Excited to see what you do, because you're a pioneer for their own authentic reason, interesting shit. And so inspiration for me, if you do make it to your phone. So please do.
I will.
Out there.
I do.
Thank you, Casey. Do you need a podcast discovered that people who liked this tend to absolutely love? So I've linked that. I know you'll enjoy it.